Today on Locked On Rockies, a fun night of home runs and a nice conversation about the All-Star Game voting process.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock On Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 16th day of July in the year 2025. What? I did 2 days in a row. Why do I have 2025 on the brain? Where am I going? What am I jumping ahead to? Where am I even getting 2025? I don't know. Very weird. But anyway, welcome back into the Locked On Rockies podcast, where you can find your team every day. Well, that's where you find on the Locked On Podcast Network. But here on Locked On Rockies, you find Colorado Rockies talk 5 days a week right here on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show. You can fire off your hot takes. You can let me know what's on your mind when it comes to the Colorado Rockies, just like our friend Derek Giles says, am I dreaming or did we get condoned? I think Condon? I think it's Condon. You mean the first two teams passed on the best hitter in college history? They are so dumb. I thought the Rockies, it was a surprise, but man, it's so glad to hear the Rockies were really bought in on a big name bat. Unfortunately, the audio yesterday, I don't know what happened. I hope it's better today. I'm recording a separate audio track today that I tested that sounded better. So fingers crossed on that, but apologies for that. But we should be back in action. It sounded nice and good today. We're going to talk about the home run derby today. I had a nice, a good interaction with a Rockies fan on Twitter yesterday, where we talked about the All-Star Game voting process. And I think I wanted to, because you know what, I got called out a little bit too. So, and I want to talk about that. And maybe if there were the case for other Rockies All-Stars out there. But before we dive into all the fun today, got to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. The right state can make you a fan of any city, even your rivals. Check out Booking.com for your stay today. All right. So here's the deal. I'm a big fan of the home run derby. Is it perfect? No. Is it weird that they changed the format of the event? It seems like every couple years. And I think they were making changes up until like 2 weeks ago or something like that, or even like up until now. I didn't quite understand the format where it was, but I also missed all the pregame stuff. I also, in reality, I tuned in to watch people hit home runs, and that's what I got to see. And it wasn't a long, drawn out, painful process. I don't miss 5-hour home run derbies. I don't miss those things. I don't miss how long those would drag. I don't miss that. I think that as them continuing to be thinking about it, them making the thought process and working through the event and making the adjustments they need to is smart. I think that we're seeing that you can, maybe the pace is a little too fast, so you can't fully admire these massive bombs, but like, I don't know. I got to see a lot of those those huge moonshots. I mean, I got to see the balls go in the second deck that Teoscar was hitting, and I mean, I was just entertained. And you know what? Like, there was a pace to the whole thing where it kept moving, even with the breaks. And you know what? Like, it's the modern world of advertisement, right? Like, even just being able to just do with those 30-second breaks, instead of like pulling fully away from the action and focusing on them talking and at least doing a little bit of that stuff and having those interactions, I think there too. It was great to have everyone mic'd up the way they were. I just think when you're looking for an all-star game event, that's the perfect one. I mean, the best part about the baseball all-star game is, as a lot of people mention, is the fact that they don't really take it off. It's I understand the mindset and the philosophies of the other games. I can understand kind of why the All-Star games have gotten to the situation they're in. And it's like, well, it's not fun to watch these guys, score a bunch of points in basketball that much, because it's, they're just going right to the lane. And they're not doing, there's a level still of competitiveness to the All-Star game because the pitchers still go up there and throw gas. The batters are still going up there to do damage, and there's still time and room for the goofy and fun stuff. I mean, there's the legendary Larry Walker clip. There's so much interaction amongst the players. There's the on-field interviews. I mean, I really don't know what it is about baseball's All-Star game. It is one of the few things that they have compared to the other major sports that baseball kind of has a stranglehold on. The slam dunk contest should be the coolest thing in sports. It should always, like, the home run derby is sweet and was cool, especially when you think of the Griffey days and the Hamilton run and those, the old school derbies, as they're trying to kind of, I think, recapture the magic of this stuff. But that was a pumped, loud crowd that was on their feet the whole time. They got to see hundreds of home runs last night. And they didn't have to wait all night. They didn't have to sit around. There wasn't a bunch of dragging. I really do think that it's a more entertaining product. I still think that it kind of suffers a little bit too from the same thing as all those things. Like, are you like super dead set focused on it? Are you, especially like, if you don't have any stake in the game, right? If you're a Rockies fan, for example. But if you watch the home run derby, you get to learn more about these players. You get to see so much of the personalities of these players and hear so much about how this, like, hear about them competing and see how hard it really is to do what they're doing, mixed in with the fact that it's a good workout. It's the format stuff is always going to be interesting, but in terms of it being what it is now, and there's like, I liked the timer pitch mix thing. I mean, you can tell the batters liked that 3 out, give them some time to do that. Having that mix of the two was pretty interesting because it allowed for different approaches, different types of styles for the batters. And I think, doing that bonus round of where it's just the outs and they get to just chill and take their pitches, I think that helps them catch their breath a little bit more. So, sure, is it a perfect thing? No, but it was entertaining. And I think that's what a lot of people are just looking for when it comes to these all-star events. It doesn't need to be the best thing in the world, but for 2.5 hours last night or whatever, I think that's what it ended up being, like 2.5 hours. It wasn't super long. People watched people mash, and I liked, you keep adding the StatCast stuff to it, or give me a total StatCast broadcast, because I think that would be really cool to be able to see it. And they're working with the camera angles, so you're still seeing the hit and you're seeing the last home run go into the stands. I like how they just kind of said they kind of got rid of that whole wait until the ball drops rule that they were doing, because no one followed it anyway. So what was the point of it? But again, I think it's a bias, sure, for me, but at the same time, I just think that it's the most entertaining of the All-Star game side things. And I didn't catch any of the skills challenge for the futures game, which I thought was a cool idea too. I think, but I heard it was a lot of focus on bunting, which isn't necessarily that cool, but it would be cool to see, I think the little games are a cool idea, but it's also, again, as we've seen with basketball and hockey, are those skills challenges the most, are they always the most entertaining to watch? I think there's a way, but it is interesting with all of baseball's problems in terms of popularity and things. They are the one that has figured out the All-Star game, at least for me, because again, I think the futures game is great. Nothing wrong, celebrities playing softball, people always have fun with that. The draft being part of All-Star weekend is great. Or All-Star week is great. But I would say my thing I used to have beef with, but I've kind of since gotten it. And this is where I've gotten this is where I got myself in. I was a little cheeky yesterday on the internet. And let's talk about that coming up here in segment number 2 of today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes FanDuel. FanDuel's got you covered all summer long for all your baseball action. So if you want to follow along the Rockies, you want to go place some money on the Rockies money line, you want to go check out some Rockies prop bets, you want to do some parlays when it comes to the Colorado Rockies, maybe you want to bet on the All-Star game tonight, maybe you want to get a head start on your football futures. Well, guess what? FanDuel's got you covered. And this summer, all summer long, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. That means there's something for everyone every day, all summer long. And you're already watching the Roccos. You're already going to tune in. Use your Rockies knowledge. Put it to the test with some parlays, with some props, and see all the action for yourself. Head over to FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. We are also brought to you by PrizePicks. And I was just talking about testing your knowledge, and there's no better way to test your fantasy baseball knowledge than PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. That's right. No one's going to take your players from you. No one's going to steal that waiver wire pickup that you were eyeballing to complete your lineup. It is just you, your knowledge, your skills put to the test at PrizePicks. You can win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $100. And PrizePicks is available in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, and Georgia. Hey, when the Rockies get back in action, why not ride the hot hand of the young Doyle Tovar Express? Pick over more on their hits or maybe stolen bases. Maybe you're believing in German Marquez's ability to get strikeouts. See all the action for yourself. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks for a deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast. We're free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk and thanking you for making us your first listen of the day. Locked On MLB is your best bet for your second listen of the day. If you need more baseball talk in your life, and if you need more Colorado sports coverage, Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, Locked On Buffs. Let's give them a little love here instead of just in the outro. We'll do it in the middle section here. Hey, also, reminder, go check out Locked On Sports Today, free and streaming 24/7 on YouTube and on the Amazon Fire TV app. And don't forget, all your baseball action, all your Rockies action, available to you on SiriusXM and the SiriusXM app. Okay, folks, so we were talking about the Home Run Derby. I'm a fan of it. Are you a fan of the Home Run Derby? Let me know what your thoughts are, what's on your mind when it comes to All-Star events. It's obviously more fun with the Rockies. It was interesting to see that the Rockies haven't had the best history when it comes to the Home Run Derby. I can't remember who. I think it was Tulo's made it the farthest, or was it Chuck? I can't remember. But anyway, always fun. Who doesn't love, if you love baseball and you don't like watching dudes just mash home runs, then I don't know what to tell you. The thing that I used to have beef with, but I've kind of let it go, is fan voting for All-Star games, or for the All-Star game. When it was the World Series thing, it was a little bit different. It was a big determination, but at the end of the day, with the fan vote of the All-Star game, it negatively impacts the Rockies for sure, because the Rockies have to be one of the best teams in baseball, have to be an electric thing to take over, to have the chance at getting multiple representatives sent to the All-Star game. And, I'm not saying that they should always do that, but I did point out on Twitter yesterday that so far this season, if you compare the WAR of Teoscar Hernandez and the numbers of Teoscar Hernandez to Brenton Doyle Doyle's been a better baseball player this year. And it's got, people are, I'm getting some retweets, getting some likes and that stuff. And then Adult Tim, which is a phenomenal name, by the way, He quote tweets and says, now do it with stats before All-Star voting. Avi Doyle's better after his hot streak when voting was closed, but these are bad faith arguments to make Rockies fans look like whiny brats who don't understand voting. And so I looked into the numbers of when All-Star voting was there, because it is, you know what? There is, if you think about, especially Brenton Doyle, the last 30 games have been doing a lot of lifting for him these in these recent times, and that's after the voting was closed. And so I fired back with some stats, because again, this wasn't a wrong take, because I posted that with a little schmarm. When All-Star Game voting was open, however, it wasn't necessarily like Teoscar Hernandez was much better, other than slugging. Teoscar Hernandez did his job in June, which was drive runs in, and he did so in a much better fashion than Brenton Doyle. So by the time All-Star voting closes on July 3rd, you're not necessarily blown away. Here's Doyle in June: 223, 245, 298. That's his batting line. He had 28 hits, 12 RBI, 2 home runs, and 25 Ks. Hernandez in June: 232 batting average, 288, 474. The big jump there in slugging. 22 hits, 17 RBI, 6 home run, and 27 strikeouts there. And so, in reality, Brenton Doyle, when voting closed, wasn't having the performance that he was having now that would make you really think that he was the all-star. But I think the thing when if you're going to consider all of the whole game is Teoscar Hernandez was doing his job driving in runs, but he wasn't a great defensive center or left fielder. He wasn't great on the other side of the ball. Brenton Doyle continues to show that he's one of the best center fielders in baseball. And then adult Tim hit me back after I threw that, and he says, undeniable that Doyle's fielding / defense is better than Teoscar. Doyle also plays center field versus left field, but through all games through July 3rd leaves Teoscar with 9 more home runs and 27 more RBI. In my opinion, I think that is significant enough of a gap to favor Teoscar. And certainly a great case there, right? That's why when you talk to people, you can just have a conversation, because boom, this is a perfect point. It's a perfect example of why Teoscar Hernandez was a better call than Brenton Doyle when voting closed. And it was kind of just a reminder of like, wow, it's amazing how quickly baseball changes, right? And but here's the other thing too. He also adult Tim also pointed the fielding value, a fielding run value, and Teoscar's in the negative. So it begs to differ, like, the amount of focus on, for fans especially when they vote, it is just offensive numbers mixed in with their favorite teams. Like, and should there be multiple Dodgers and Phillies in the All-Star game and starting? Yes, absolutely. They're the best teams in the NL. They have wonderful, incredible players. But say the Rockies were, in the hunt for the wild card. Does that change anything? And the players that we thought were going to be, that had a chance at the All-Star game, Doyle, Diaz, McMahon, and Tovar, give them basically the same seasons, but just have it be the Rockies more successful. That still isn't even going to be enough for them to even have a remote chance. The Rockies always not only have to compete with the talent and making sure that their players are playing like all-stars, which they as the Rockies have shown, haven't done all that and haven't done a lot of generating all-stars, but then they also have to mix in again with fan bases and biases, whatever. They just have to deal with that, the whole fan element. And with the Rockies' reputation, especially amongst the common fan, being so poor, it doesn't matter if you have, again, it's Tulo not winning Rookie of the Year. It's Todd Helton taking forever to get in the, there's this long history of disrespect of Rockies' greatness. So I don't really know when, unless the Rockies are in first place in the division at an all-star break, I think that's really the only path that you could ever start carving out for the Rockies to even come close to having 2 representatives at the All-Star game. I mean, I did they have multiple in the playoff series? Because Charlie and Nolan had to have been All-Stars in the same season. Let's do a quick Google. How many All-Stars did the Rockies have in 20? Let's go 2017. Okay, MLB team history, Rockies All-Stars. Okay, so they have had. So I am wrong here. Even in non-relevant seasons, but for the most part, the Rockies have only been sending 1 representative. And now this only goes back to 2018. So this isn't necessarily the recent stuff, but it does kind of back up what I'm saying. 17 and 18, the Rockies are, playoff teams, the best version of themselves. 16, they start building up. The Rockies actually had multiple All-Stars for 5 straight. Wow. For 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 straight seasons from 2013 up to 2018. The Rockies had at least 2 All-Stars. In 2013, it was Kadire, Tulo, and Cargo. In 2014, it was Tulo and Blackman. In 15, it was Tulo, DJ LeMahieu, and Nolan Arenado. 16 was Cargo and Nolan Arenado. 17 was Greg Holland, Charlie Blackman, and Nolan Arenado. And then in 2018 was Charlie Blackman, Nolan Arenado, and Trevor Story. So I stand corrected. I stand corrected. But it also the Rockies are a little bit more relevant in those times there. But looking at this list, I'm actually shocked. The Rockies, I think, with the last few years might change this, but the Rockies have sent 1 representative, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times, and they've sent multiple players 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So, man, it's getting close back to being, 50-50 on sending 1 person, but look at that. Learn something together there. But so since the All-Star game voting, though, since it doesn't have the home field advantage in the World Series, at this point, I just shrug my shoulders. And you know what? As we just learned and just saw, the Rockies can get multiple people sent to the All-Star game. They just need to play like it. So does anyone else have a case? Should any other Rockies players been on the All-Star game list? Let's take a look coming up in segment number 3. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help makes this show possible, and that includes Booking.com. Yeah. With summer travel heating up, especially travel for baseball games, it's time to explore those U.S. cities you've always secretly wanted to learn more about. And that's what the beauty of the new Major League Baseball schedule is. Well, I wonder how long we can keep calling it new, because it's the second time we're doing this. But the Rockies play every team in baseball. So why not use this as the perfect opportunity, the perfect chance, the perfect reason to book a place to a trip or to a ballpark you've never been, with hotels, bed and breakfast, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more. On Booking.com, you might just find your perfect stay, even if it's in LA, Phoenix, or San Diego, or San Francisco, on the rival turf of the Rockies. From hotels that overlook stadiums to family-friendly resorts, Booking.com has so many choices across the U.S. for summer travel this baseball season. The right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city. Book today on Booking.com, on the site, or in the Booking.com app. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast. We're free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. If your team is the Colorado Rockies, you're in the right spot. Thank you so much for joining us, for hanging out with us, for being with us today on this lovely All-Star break. So we're not going to have time to go through every single thing, but let me know if you think that these are All-Star number worthy. Ezekiel Tovar this season is batting .274, .302, .764 OPS. He's driven in 42 RBI. He's got 14 home runs and 108 hits this season. And let's see, the starting All-Star game, shortstop. I should know this, but it's probably changed. Trey Turner. I should have known. Trey Turner this year is batting 349, 395 OPS with a 395 OBP with an OPS of 941, 32 RBI, 11 homers. So, yeah, Trey Turner, pretty good. Don't think Ezekiel Tovar was going to finish up there, but someone that's going to be playing in a few of those All-Star games pretty darn soon, especially as after he was going through that slump for a little bit and then was heating right up there. So, of course, we're really only comparing to the starters here, but shortstop is a flashy position full of flashy potential there. Brenton Doyle, I think, certainly has a case now, but wouldn't, like I was saying in my segment before this, the voting period is an important time of performance, and during the voting period for the All-Star game, Brenton Doyle was not playing his best version of ball, was certainly not playing the Brenton Doyle ball that we know right now. And the question is, how much are we going to see that in the second half? I mean, how much of this is going to be consistent and great? But I think there is an argument. But again, I think when I have the context of when the voting was open, that kind of adds a little bit to it. Because if you're not making names, if you're not raising eyebrows in the greater baseball world in the month of June, especially, you're gonna miss out on your opportunities there for the All-Star game. I mean, I think that's a big deal. Okay, in terms of the catcher position, did Elias Diaz deserve to be an all-star for his performance? I think he probably had a case until he got hurt, and he got hurt during voting. Again, that was the prime time for Elias Diaz to be able to win some people over. I think that he was spending that time injured. 286 batting average, an OBP of 330, and OPS of 733, 5 homers, 30 RBI in this season, and a little bit of a rough stretch in the last 7 games for Elias Diaz. But again, dealing with the calf strain, dealing with the injury, and I think that was the thing that kind of punished the All-Star chances for Elias Diaz, because he still swinging the bat well. We know that. Contreras there for the Brewers. 286 average there, an OPS of 792. He's got 11 home runs, 55 RBI. He's got 5 stolen bases there. So yeah, when you're similar batting average, or the same batting average really there, but the difference being 6 more home run and 25 more RBI there, as well as an OPS. No, the OPSs aren't too far off. About 60-point difference though. So still some pretty significant ground in between there. But on top of it all, the Rockies record, the Rockies performance, I don't necessarily know if this was the season to be having multiple All-Stars, but it's a good reminder this time of the better play of some of the players for the Rockies, and some of the good stretches that the Rockies players have had, or the bounce back and benefit of getting out of said funk. But anyway, it's not a year for multiple All-Stars, but I'm still, honestly, I was shocked. I was shocked to learn that the Rockies have sent multiple All-Stars more than they have not. And I guess since that was 2018, if we start adding in the rest of the years, I think it's back to basically 50-50. It's pretty close to it. So, but anyway, what are your thoughts? Did the Rockies have a case for multiple All-Stars? Did you think more Rockies should be All-Stars? Are you excited for the All-Star game? I think Ryan McMahon's going to get a chance tonight. I hope so, at least. Got to get him at least an at-bat in there. I hope, but keep your fingers crossed that Ryan McMahon has a big night I'll never forget Elias Diaz's All-Star game. Boy, was that fun last year. What a blast. All right, everyone, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen of the day, go check out Locked On MLB. If you need more Colorado sports coverage, Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, and Locked On Buffs have got you covered. I know everyone's out there playing college football, so I'm wondering how many people are the Buffs, the Rams, or all your favorite teams. But if you also want to help the show out, when you subscribe to the show on YouTube, when you leave reviews, when you leave those 5-star reviews and help the show out, really do appreciate it. Folks, until next time, this is Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.